Hello, today we're looking at substitution. So there's our title here, substitution. Same as in soccer, you're taking off a player, you're putting on another player. That's very much what the idea of substitution is. We have a question here. The question is asking us to evaluate 4x plus 10 when x is equal to 2. Okay, so we're going to take away the x, take it off the pitch type of thing, just like a substitution. So the x is going to disappear, and then we're going to put the 2 in instead of the x. So looking at our solution, we have the material we started with, the 4x plus 10. So that's exactly like what we were given in the question. And we're now going to get rid of the x. So if you notice in the next line, we still have a 4, we still have a 10, but what's missing? The x is missing. It has been replaced with a 2. So 2 has gone in there instead of the x. Okay, so that's all we're doing. That's the idea of substitution. That's the whole idea. The following line, there's just a little bit of multiplication to be done. 4 times 2 is 8. And the 10 then can be added to the 8. 8 plus the 10 gives us 18. So it's quite easy to finish up. So another simple example, same as the one we've gone before. Again, often the language that's used is evaluate. So we're asked to evaluate 7x minus 4 when x is equal to 3. So we're going to get rid of x and we're going to put in the number 3. That's the idea. So once more, we start with whatever we were given. So we're starting with 7x minus 4 in our solution, just as we were given. We're going to keep all the bits except the x. So we can see we still have the 7, still have the minus 4. The only thing that's changed, of course, is that the x has been replaced with the number 3. That's the new thing. That's the substitution. So 7 multiplied by 3, that's what this means. This is multiplication. So 7 multiplied by 3 is 21. Take away 4 is 17. So that is the idea of substitution. Now questions obviously can get harder. This question here is slightly harder. There's more terms. There's 1, 2, 3 terms. The first term 5x squared, the second term minus x, and the third term minus 8. So there's 3 terms here. 2 of them contain x. So when we're told that x is equal to 4, that's what we're being told here, it means we're going to replace this x with minus 4, but I'm also going to replace this x with minus 4. And we're going to have to be very careful with all our signs and our multiplications and so on. So once more, we started with 5x squared minus x minus 8, so we're going to start with that. You can see in purple there we've put in the 1 because there is an invisible 1. There's an invisible 1 there in front of the x. So we have to include that in our solution. You don't always show the 1. You can see it was left out in the next line, but it can be shown there as well. I'll put it in blue. Okay, so like before, all the pieces that were there previously, the 5 is still there, the squared is still there, the minus 8 is still there. So all those bits are going to stay just like they were before, but we're going to have to be very careful to get rid of x. So we can see x is gone, and we've replaced x with, x gets replaced with the minus 4. The x gets replaced with the minus 4. And we use a bracket there to show the multiplication, because of course 5x squared means x gets squared and then multiplied by 5. And minus x means that the x must be multiplied by minus 1. So we need to be aware that they mean multiplication. That's why we're using brackets for multiplication. So the bracket squared, that has to be done first because of BOMDAS. Brackets, orders, multiplication and division get done together. Addition and subtraction get done together. So anything that's inside a bracket though has to be done first. Well, we've no tidying up there, but next is orders. Now orders are really powers of squares, square roots. So that has to be done before we get to the multiplication or division. So Minus 4 squared, what does that mean? Minus 4 squared means minus 4 multiplied by minus 4. So minus 4 squared, minus 4 minus 4. Now, our rules for multiplication, minus with minus is always plus, and 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. So that's where our 16 is coming from. It's a plus 16. In a quite a similar way, we have minus 1 multiplied by minus 4 here. And again, it's minus with minus makes plus, and 1 by 4 is 4. So there's quite a lot going on there. Daisy. So what's 5 times 16? 5 times 16 gives us 80. We have the minus 1 by minus 4, it gives us plus 4. And we have the minus 8. So that's just adding and subtracting. 80 and 8 plus 4 is 84. So that's 84 together. Take away 8 makes 76. So these problems are not too hard with a little bit of practice. Most people can get very good at these. Just remember that we must square before we do any multiplication because of BOMDAS. Just a little review of our signs and the rules for multiplying here. So plus by plus, so plus 3 and plus 2, the answer is a plus 6. A minus 3 by a minus 2, that's already highlighted with purple there. Minus 3 by minus 2, again the answer will be plus 6. So some people, I like to learn them off just plus by plus is plus, and minus by minus is plus. Some people prefer to use the rules that when the two signs are the same, i.e. plus 3 and plus 2, or minus 3 and minus 2, then the answer will be positive. Some people like to learn that rule, so you're kind of learning them all together. Personally, I prefer to just remember plus by plus is plus, minus by minus is also plus. That one we know from primary school. All of our multiplications were usually positive by positive. This is the one that people tend to forget, and looks the strangest to a lot of them, of course. The next two, a plus 3 times a minus 2, so the signs are different, but plus by minus is always minus. I prefer to just learn it, plus by minus is minus. Some people prefer to remember that when the two signs are different, i.e. a plus and a minus, the answer is negative. So whichever way you prefer to remember it. In a very similar way, a minus 3 by a plus 2 would be minus 6. And I just like to remember minus by plus is minus. But again, some people like to remember when the signs are different, i.e. minus 3 and plus 2, when those signs are different, then the answer will be negative. So some people like to learn it that way. If you learn it that way, you can see then that the one rule kind of covers both of these. Different signs on the left here when they're multiplying give you negatives. So it's kind of like one rule, learns both of those. We can talk a little bit about why those signs are in another video. So in another video we can see why those rules are the way they are. But most importantly, just remember that bit that's highlighted in green. So just down there we can see that we had minus 4 squared was minus 4 by minus 4, which is plus 16. Similarly, 5 squared just means 5 multiplied by 5, but they're both positive there. The answer would of course be 25. We're not so interested in the answer, we're interested in that idea that whatever's in that bracket, if it's getting squared, it means the minus 4 has to appear twice, and of course they're multiplying. Okay, so another question here, slightly harder perhaps. We have the question, evaluate against the typical language. So we're evaluating this expression. This expression has 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 terms there. What's the condition? The condition is when x is equal to minus 6. So we're going to get rid of the x there and there, and we're going to throw in minus 6 instead of x. But we've got to be careful, we've got to use our brackets properly and so on. So solution, we're going to start with this stuff here. You see we just highlighted that as a 1x. Let's highlight it here. Other than that, we're going to get rid of the x, so we can see the x is gone and we're replacing it with minus 6. The x is gone and we're replacing it with minus 6. That's our substitution. Now, what did we say before? We've got to be careful with our multiplication. So we have 4 is being multiplied by minus 6 squared. Well, BOMDAS tells us that the orders, O, comes before the multiplication and division, before the adding and subtracting. So this is orders, which means squares and square roots and so on. So we've got to deal with the square first. So minus 6 times minus 6 is going to be plus 36. Indeed, if you want to look at the next line, 4 times 36 will be 144. So that's where all that's coming from. But just sticking with the other bits there, we have a minus 1 multiplying by a minus 6. So again, minus by minus, it's going to be plus. 1 by 6 is 6. So we can see that we using the same rule there, minus by minus plus, we're using the same rule twice. Once we've got all of our, you can see the minus 5 doesn't do anything until it gets down here. All of our multiplication and division is finished, so we can worry about adding and subtracting now. So 144, take away 5 will be 139, plus 6 will be 145. Hopefully at this stage we're feeling a bit more confident and good about it. In our rough work we have the minus 6 squared, so some people might find that challenging to remember. Again, that's just one of our rules. It's up here, minus by minus is always plus. So there's just another set of examples for multiplication. First one, plus by plus is plus. Second one, minus by minus is plus. Third one, plus by minus is minus. Last one, minus by plus is minus. We need to know those rules, know them really well. Okay, that pretty much is everything we need to know about substitution. There's lots of practice questions you could do, so we want a problem involving fractions. So here on the left hand side we have a problem involving a fraction. We also have two variables to substitute. In green, highlighted in green, we're going to get rid of x and replace it with 3. Highlighted in orange, we're going to get rid of y and replace it with minus 2. So again, our question is evaluate, and oops, it is. So a question here with fractions. So there's a fraction that makes it maybe more challenging. There's also two variables, x and y. Highlighted in green, we're going to replace our x with 3. So x is going to get replaced with 3, while highlighted in orange, we're going to replace the y with minus 2. Okay, so that's the plan. The language, of course, is still evaluate. So we're evaluating this fraction, and our conditions are when x is 3, highlighted here, and when the y is minus 2. Okay, so there are our conditions. So we start by repeating the material that was in the question. So we started with this fraction. We always start with the problem that's given to us. We're now replacing the x, so there was an x in two spots, one on top and one on the bottom. So both of those we can see have been replaced by the number 3. So that was simple enough. The y, similarly, it's a y squared. So we're careful to replace that y with minus 2. And of course it's still going to get squared. So we need to be careful there. Now, every fraction has an invisible bracket top and bottom, so we can see if put in these purple brackets. So one could think, well, fractions mean division. Okay, and they do, obviously fractions do mean division. we have a fraction line here, but we don't have to do division before adding here. We obviously have an addition up on top here. We don't need to do the division first because the material on top is in an invisible bracket. The material on the bottom is in an invisible bracket. They have to be done first because of BOMDAS. So B is for the material inside brackets, in this case an invisible bracket. That has to get done first before we can start worrying about powers like orders or multiplication, division and so on. So the 7 times 4 on top is 28. So 7 times 4 is giving us 28. Other than that, there's no change there in that line. But again, following that idea of do what's in the brackets. So now we can add the 15 to 28, giving us 43. So that addition gets done before the division because it's in an invisible bracket. It's giving us the 43. Now everything else is done on top and bottom, so the 2 brackets are finished. Those invisible brackets have been tidied up. So next we're left with this fraction, which means division. So it's 43 divided by 3. That goes in 14, 1 remainder, or 14 and 1/3. So a little bit more complicated for sure because of the fractions. So hopefully you found substitution this useful for substitution. I suggest you practice some questions, and good luck. Bye bye.